Okay, my ground is fixed. Okay, so for the circles, I'm using this template, which is, crap. Someone told me who made it, but I don't remember now. Someone awesome made it. And I'm going to do this tier first because it's a little bit easier. So my tower thingy that I made before, I started from the bottom and worked my way up, but then I decided I think I'm going to be building an observatory, and with an observatory I want it to be big at the top, and if I were to keep working on it this way it would be lots more steps to get to the top. So I'm working from the top to the bottom, but for this example I'm actually going to do the second piece first instead of the first piece, the top tier first. So, think about this. If I do... Yes, this works well. Okay. So I'm copying a few layers of that because I want the cylinder to be a little bit thick. Get that off the ground. And so the darker tier, or the bottom tier here, is going to be the outside of my cylinder. And I'm going to copy these middle layers because I'm not using them right now. I actually copied one more than I meant to. Copy those ones, and I'm going to delete paste to get rid of them. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the top one because I don't want that right now. Delete paste to get rid of that. So that leaves me with this one, which I'm going to also delete paste to get rid of it, but then I'm going to delete paste to get rid of that piece of the semicircle below. So delete that and delete there. Nice. So now my sphere will, or my cylinder will have walls that are 8 thick, which from a little experimentation it seems like they have to be at least 4 thick to cut well. I'm doing 8 thick because it's going to be so big at the top. And so I'm just going to rotate and slide this to get it in place to make a... Actually, I'm only going to do a half cylinder this time because I keep making the full cylinder and then going back and deleting it, deleting half of it. So I'm going to just make a half cylinder to start with. Slide that all the way down there. That way. And because Fugazi is awesome. I was talking with him the other day about how he does his builds, and he recommends strongly that you work with odds for pretty much everything. And he was giving me a hard time yesterday about that my cylinders were even, which is why I'm actually going back and redoing them now. So this is the center point of this cylinder, and when I get to bringing the other half of this in, I'll have to make sure that I take the center point into account. Oops. Do this again and overlap it just by 1 so that I have a good center point on this also. Yes, this template is magic. Do you have a copy of it, Zapusa? Zepsua, I'm always saying your name wrong. If you don't, I can send you a copy. It makes for very, very clean circles. Okay, I will send you a copy right now. Before I forget. I think I still have one in my inventory even. I do. Zep. Okay, that'll make life a lot easier. Maybe, if I remember to just call you Zep. I probably will. Okay, so I already copied this. I don't need to reselect it. So now I'm just going to stack this up until it's pretty tall. And this is the really tedious part. No, this isn't the really tedious part. This is the easy part. Next time someone tells me who actually made this stack of circles, I'm going to go edit my template name so that it's named properly so I can tell people who's responsible for making the awesomeness. I know Metallical's the one who cleaned it up so that it was, because originally it was just one semicircle with all of the layers in it, and he broke it up so that it's easier to use like this. Absolutely, Karayu. Let me stack this a couple more times and then I will send that to you. Here I am. Maybe it's broken. Try while you have the gallery open, go to your chat window and type /marketplace close. No problem, Countess. I will send it to you as well. This is why I've been keeping extra copies in my bag, because it's such a handy template to use for this competition and for anything involving circles. Okay. Give it some time, it'll load. No, if you open it up and let it sit there for a while, like a minute, it'll reload. In inventory. Okay, so I have Karayu. Anyone else want this while I'm working on it? Or while I'm at my mailbox? And a Countess. Okay, so now I have my nice tall stack of circles. The next step is where it actually gets tedious, is to find a circle or an arc that you would like to use as a guide for cutting it, because what we're going to do is use the line tool in delete mode to cut through this. You're welcome so much. Close. So what I'm using is one of these gigantic, I went 8 this time. I'm going to use this gigantic quarter oval here.
When the time comes, be ready, don't you
And I'm going to line it up with the cylinder so that I have several voxels below it on one end, and I can be sure that the other end, yeah, I need to stack my cylinder a little taller. So I need to make sure that on the low end there's a few voxels below it so that there's you know, space to work with after I'm done cutting. And on the high end, hi Sigra! On the high end I also need to make sure that the cylinder comes up above the top of this line. The line is going to essentially be a guide for our cutting tool. And I think I want to slide it just a little bit more this way. And I have plenty of space here. I'm going to slide it just a little bit more to the right, closer to my half cylinder. And then I'm going to also slide it over to the other side of the half cylinder, because there will be times when I want to use the guide on the left and times when I want to use the guide on the right. Okay, so now I have it in both places, and I'm going to make my cylinder just a little bit taller. I'll start from down here. Okay, that should be good. Awesome. So, very cool. Thank you. That'll keep me supplied for a couple days. Thank you very much. So now I'm going to take my line tool and make it massively huge. My cylinder is 79 wide, if I recall correctly. So I need my line tool to be at least that size, so it can cut all the way across my cylinder. I'm probably going to make it maximum size of 100, just to be sure that I have enough cutting power. I have all the cutting power. And then you line it up. I'm on the outside of the cylinder so that, see here where I placed it, there's still a voxel on the right side of it. Need to get it outside the cylinder. And then you also need to line it up with the guide. And so your first cut, you might want to come a couple outside of your cylinder. I'm going to bring it down one and then slide it to the right a bit until it lines up with the guide. One or two more. It cuts into the guide a little bit, so one more. Maybe one more? It's a very gradual slope here, so there's a lot of adjustment. It changes how far you can cut with this, changes as you go up the slope. So that's my first spot. And then I'm going to again line this up on the outside of the cylinder. And actually I'm going to click on this spot here because it's the closest. I'm going to hit F to go into delete mode before I forget. And then I'm going to slide it up one. And I don't need to worry about sliding it over to the right really at this point, but I'm going to now, because I suspect, I don't know, but I suspect that it helps if you keep the line tool pretty straight. That is straight, I think. So then I'm going to come in a little bit so that I'm actually going to be cutting the cylinder with this. Sometimes when you're moving around, the handles disappear, so if that happens, you just gotta click on the handles on the tweak mode box and you'll get them back. Oh, thank you, Countess. Okay, so I lost my handles again. I'm going to slide this up. No, just one. Damn it, it's sliding too far. One. And then I'm going to bring it over until it looks like it's just coming in contact with the guide. And that looks about perfect. It's just above. I think if I slide it to the right or to the left one more, it will actually cut into the guide. The Fugazi tutorial that I watched that taught how to do this said that it's best if you don't cut into your guide at all. So yeah, that cuts into the guide a little bit, so I'm going to go back one more. I'm line tool cutting. So then when I accept that, it cuts with the line into the side of my cylinder. And as I repeat this over and over and over again, this is really tedious because it's such a huge thing. But as I go through this, I will end up getting a cut that's curved similar to the one that I have over here. Okay, so I need to make sure that my line tool is lined up with my guide. It is. So accept that. Put it back in place over here. Lined up with the first one. Mostly. And then bring it in. And actually, I didn't have it lined up well. So from here on is basically just redoing that same process over and over and over again until you finish cutting. But always making sure that you're lining up as well as you can with the guide. So sometimes you'll be moving it up one and over a few. Sometimes you'll be moving it up a couple and over one. It really depends on the angle that you're cutting at that point. So this time I'm going to cut there. Check. And I will keep going on this. Let's see. It's kind of hard to see how well it lines up sometimes, but I think I need to bring that over one more. That looks pretty good. So yeah, from here it's just repeat over and over and over again. Give me just a second and I'll find a link to a tutorial on YouTube for how to do this, which is less tedious than the one that I'm walking through. It's still tedious, but it's a quicker walkthrough. It's my recent. There we go. Is.
Oh, looks.
Ah, Katavari, you beat me. That's because of the type of cut that I did on that one. And hi, Katavari. Happy Saturday. I do need to make a tutorials command. Katavari has a fantastic playlist of tutorials that I want to have a command to bring up. Oh, I did that wrong. Undo. One of these days I'll remember to do that. think that's the right spot. Okay, not having my character in the frame is kind of throwing me off from my flying around. Okay, that's too tall. Well, have fun going and mowing the lawn then. Up one and over more. More. That's perfect. See how this lines up exactly with the guide. That's the ideal cut that we're looking for, but the smaller cuts that you make, the better, because then it keeps the cut to the guide pretty well. You could, for example, if I started here, which is where I left the last one off, that lines up perfectly. I could then, for the next cut, lift this up a few and bring it in. I'll lift it up a few more. Why not? And bring it in to where it touches the guide. Wow, I'm not touching the guide yet. There, to where it touches the guide there. But you can see here that the line of the line tool is way off of the guide, so it's not going to be as smooth of a transition over time that way.